Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker, and no, we are not in midseason form on the show. We've hit another stride. It's called postseason form, and I'm planning to prove it to you today. We've got every single sport from the fall season, and it's all magnified just a little bit more as the playoffs are upon us, whether we're getting you ready for the postseason or whether we're showing and telling you what's happened so far. We've got it covered from both sides today. We've got volleyball. We've got cross country, also golf and soccer coming up, and we'll start with football. Bob Parsaliti joins me for that in just a moment.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny. To shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
When you're sick or hurt and can't be seen by your regular doctor, you just want to feel better faster. Make a convenient appointment or simply walk into Meritus Urgent Care, where you can receive attention from our caring professionals, from sprains and strains to sore throats, earaches, and other ailments that are not life-threatening. Meritus Urgent Care has you covered with on-site labs and x-rays and much more. We're conveniently located on Pennsylvania Avenue in Hagerstown at the Sylvania Center. Feel better faster with Meritus Urgent Care.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We begin this week with football, and joining me is Herald Mail insider Bob Parsaliti. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Thanks for having me on.
A very eventful Week 9 as it played out, and an excellent football game on Friday night. You covered it for the Herald Mail. Williamsport at Boonesboro. Who would have guessed that the opening possession for each team would produce the only points in the entire game?
That's pretty much what Clayton Anders said after the game. He said that the last thing he expected was a 7-6 final. He was looking at 30-28. Of course, Boonesboro winning, but 30-28, you know. And it just didn't work out that way. But both teams really played very well, for especially on the defensive side. Williamsport all the way through, and Boonesboro, especially in the second half, played great defense. And that one missed extra point really changed the complexion of that entire game.
Yeah, Mason Duty blocking the extra point. Kayvon Carter with the touchdown, answering a Boonesboro touchdown that was set up by a great opening kickoff return by Jake Humble, taking it back 52 yards all the way to the Williamsport 40.
A lot of credit goes to that play of setting the whole scene up, because Williamsport won the toss and deferred. So they kicked off thinking that their defense was going to set it up, and all of a sudden it's put on the short field. In the first half, Williamsport spent the majority of time with their back against the goalpost because of the situations with turnovers, and they were very resourceful in preventing it from being a much higher score than 7-6. The game was played differently because of the miss extra point. Boonesboro went down there and knocked on the door, and instead of going for field goals on fourth down, they weren't going to help them. It was only going to make it so that they had to have a touchdown to beat them. So they needed another score, and they tried to do it, and Williamsport, time after time, stood up. I think there was 16 plays that Boonesboro had a chance of scoring on in that game, with ball being in the red zone, and they came up with -1 yard in those 16 plays. And that's counting with the ball being at the half-yard line on one of those.
Yeah, that's incredible. 37 minutes and 44 seconds of football after the second score in that game, and then nobody ever scores again. So just a tremendous football game from a defensive standpoint. Williamsport now 6-3. Their playoff hopes go away. They hope they'll just have a game to play this coming Friday. We'll talk about that in a moment. Boonesboro, on the other hand, also 6-3, now third in the 1A West playoff standings, but it doesn't assure them of anything going into Week 10.
It's going to come down to how they play this week against Smithsburg, and how Catoctin against Brunswick, and how Southern Garrett plays against Northern Garrett. And the wins and losses in there are going to decide a lot, and so will the bonus points that come off of that.
Well, the Warriors hope they're not saying what I'm saying right now. If they had only beaten Catoctin by the time this week concludes. Other action from this past week, we got started on Thursday. North Hagerstown at home against Spring Mills. homecoming for North, but they just could not get any offense generated against Spring Mills whatsoever. They got as close as 9-7, wound up losing 19-7.
Well, they had a similar situation. They couldn't get the ball in the end zone either on a couple of tries. They ended up getting, in a very weird set of circumstances, they got a ball taken over on downs and got it on Spring Mills' 7-yard line and scored on the first play to make it 9-7. But then after that, they really couldn't do anything offensively.
Against Spring Mills, they were 2 for 14 on 3rd and 4th downs combined. Scott Neal was back at quarterback. Ryan Clark moved to receiver. We'll see how Coach Staines decides to play it this week with North taking on South in a game that could be big for both teams as it relates to the playoffs. South Hagerstown, a 34-7 win over Jefferson last Friday. The Rebels scoring the game's final 34 points there. And then Jay Swassinone finally breaks out the big game that South's been waiting for, 226 yards rushing and 2 of their 3 rushing touchdowns.
And it could have been much bigger because he had 3 called back.
That's right. Yeah, South still not as crisp as they need to be, and I know that's been a source of a little frustration there throughout the course of the season. But even though they're only 4-5 right now, again, this big matchup coming up on Friday could determine a playoff spot. South has won 4 straight and 5 of the last 6 against North coming in, but this is one with much more on the line than just the rivalry.
Well, the winner of this one has a shot.
Yep.
A lot of things have to go right. The biggest thing is what Tuscarora does against Oakdale, because if Tuscarora wins, they're in.
Northern Garrett beat Smithsburg 31-17. The Leopards' win streak ends at 4. Some untimely turnovers by the Leopards in that game really hampering their cause. The first half might have been one of Smithsburg's best of the year against a very tough opponent on the road, but then that second half, it was pretty much all Northern Garrett, and now Boonesboro, the final opponent for Smithsburg coming up this week, so it'll mean a season where Smithsburg either finishes above 500 or they finish below 500 in this final game. Murray over St. James, 34-26. All kinds of offense by the banged-up St. James Saints in this game, 440 yards of it, 20 of 29 passing from their freshman quarterback, Jacob Dugas, 312 yards and 3 touchdowns. But all of a sudden, that Saints defense that had been so good early in the year, and yes, they're missing some key pieces, 82 points allowed in the last 2 games after giving up just 51 in the first 7.
Well, a big problem for them is that their 3 main guys are out. So, I mean, they are really decimated, and they're just basically dog paddling to keep their heads above water right now.
Yeah, lost 2 of their last 3, 6-3 right now. They'll finish up against Avalon this coming Saturday. And Catoctin defeated Clear Spring 34-7, but that was only part of the story. An incident on the field that caused all the players to come off of the Clear Spring bench, or most of the players, enough of them that they didn't have enough players after ejections were handed out for them to finish that game. So there's still discussion as we tape here on Tuesday about whether Clear Spring will have to forfeit or whether they'll bring up enough JV players to be able to play Williamsport on Friday.
And, I mean, that's not even, you have to really wonder if that's a good way to go, because there's a lot of kids that are going to be coming up and playing that really aren't prepared for this kind of a game. I mean, as far as a varsity game, and not a lot of time to prepare for it. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they decide in this.
Yeah, that was the 6th straight loss for Clear Spring. One other game this Friday, Hancock will conclude its season at Berkeley Springs. Hancock going after its 4th consecutive victory. So that's it for football for this week. Bob, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we'll talk about a little postseason football next week if things break just right. I'm back right after this. Speaking of the postseason, Smithsburg head volleyball coach Rachel Brashear joins me. We'll break down the volleyball brackets in just a moment.
At Hamilton Nissan, we know you've got places to go, so let's travel together. The Nissan Rogue, plenty of room for you, and plenty of room for him. With nearly 40 cubic feet of cargo space, everyone will be using the Rogue for everything, all the time. And on occasion, you'll find an evening for yourselves, and the Nissan Rogue will be right there with you. Hamilton Nissan, let's travel together. Come see us on the Dual Highway.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue with volleyball now, and the playoffs are upon us, and joining me is Smithsburg head coach Rachel Brashear. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great that you have your hair down today, because I let my hair down today.
Oh.
Last week I felt bad because I had guys from Hancock here, football players. They all had hats on. I didn't have a hat.
Wow.
But today I'm in concert with my expert. So this is fantastic.
Hair looks nice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's start with your team as it relates to the playoffs. Number 1 seed in 1A West, Section 2. That was no mystery coming in, that's for sure. But give me a little insight into just how well your team is playing right now, because they seem to have really hit their stride. 8 straight wins coming in, and victories over bigger schools most recently, notably, of course, the CMC Championship victory over North Hagerstown. But just the way the team is playing right now and your kind of gut feeling, because you've been here so many times before.
Right. You know, they've really grown the last 5 or 6 games. Looking at our schedule from the very beginning, I looked at the last 4 games and I thought, this could go one of 2 ways. At first, I was a little nervous about playing those teams right before playoffs, thinking if we had a loss, that'd be kind of not bad for our momentum, going into playoffs. But when we took the first and second game from those bigger schools, the girls just got the bug. They just started to believe. We started to see a new side of them. And sometimes it takes being in a big game and winning a big game and gaining that confidence to push you forward. And I really think that that's the direction that we're heading.
And the 5th seed Catoctin or the 4th seed Clear Spring will be your first opponent coming up on Monday, depending upon who wins that particular match. Outside of not having seen FSK, you've played everybody else in the region. Clear Spring, the only team to which you've lost a game to this point. Right. So when you look ahead at the potential matchup there, how do you prepare for that?
Clear Spring is very scrappy. They have a very solid libero. She's young, she's a sophomore, and they got a nice freshman outside hitter, and they've got some depth. The teams like Clear Spring you have to watch out for because they get hot. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night, and that's how we approach every game. Is that just whoever's in front of us, we say one bite at a time. So we just look at the first opponent, and both Catoctin and Clear Spring are scrappy teams.
Well, it's been a very wacky world of volleyball this season to this point. We go back to the latter stages of September there, where you lose 2 out of 3 matches. How have you turned that into a positive?
It was hard at the time, because we had lost to Heritage, and Heritage is a solid program, and they have been for years. Michaela Hoy, she's the real deal. She's a great hitter, great all-around player, and her team rallied around her when they beat us that night. And then we lost to Williamsport, and that was a tough pill to swallow because we had them up 2-1, and they came roaring back and beat us. But just like in life, setbacks are sometimes blessings in disguise, and we were able to build upon our losses and look at things that we had to get better at, and we knew we had to work harder. Our mantra all year long is get better every day, and so those 2 losses hurt, but I think they were pushing us in the right direction.
Boonesboro, the number 2 seed, and they will face the winner of Brunswick and FSK coming up on Monday. What does Boonesboro do well that potentially, if that becomes a matchup for you, that you'll have to counter?
Boonesboro's got some size to them. They're good blockers. They've got some nice hitters. They're all around a very solid team. We played well against Boonesboro at Boonesboro. We served well. We received well. They're a solid team. I could see Boonesboro getting hot.
Over in 2A West Section 2, we have another defending state champion like your Leopards in 1A in Williamsport. And how far does that go in helping a team in the playoffs defending a championship?
It's a double-edged sword because everybody wants a piece of you. You know what I mean? So you're coming in as, the one on top.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, coming in as the underdog is a little bit of easier of a role to play, I think, sometimes when it comes to pressure situations. Williamsport comes with a lot of tradition. They're a fantastic program. They've won many, many state championships, and I think, they have a rich pride over there in Williamsport, and I think they play that way. I think that they were dealt a tough hand this year with Kiera going out, but I think they're going to rally. I think they're going to do what Williamsport does.
Yeah, they get a first-round bye. They'll open on Monday, too, at home in section semifinal against the winner of Thursday's quarter between Poolesville and Walkersville. They're 9-3 since Kiara Lewis went down, so they've certainly been able to pull it together, which is pretty impressive. Over in 3A West Section 2, North Hagerstown, the number 2 seed there, 11-5. I wouldn't say that they're coming into the playoffs playing their best volleyball, but again, here's a program with a great tradition, and you would think with the coaching staff that's there that they could certainly make some noise.
Absolutely.
And again, coming in maybe a little under the radar perhaps helps North Hagerstown.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that North Hagerstown has all the pieces that it needs. 3A is it's tough in the 3A. Yeah. They're facing much bigger schools, but they definitely have a fantastic middle hitter. Their setter is solid. They were very scrappy against us on defense. There was a lot of intense rallies when we played each other. So, I could see them making some noise. I agree with that.
And they'll face either Linganore or potentially South Hagerstown in their first matchup. By the way, Tuscarora, the #1 seed in their section, a team that they beat earlier this year. So that bodes well for North Hagerstown potentially going forward. Thanks for leaving the water bottle behind today, by the way.
No pun intended.
I appreciate that. And thanks for being here. Good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be back right after this with a couple of county cross-country champions. They'll join me in just a moment.
Wanna be one, #1, it's gotta be fun. Wanna be one, #1, it's gotta be fun. Punch it, kick it, giving it all. Premier Martial Arts helps take it to the top, y'all. Jab, cross, hook, kick, you feel it when we stick it. Wanna be one, winner, yeah, I won. I'm Premier, #1. Wanna be #1, kids? Have your parents call.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny. To shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue now with cross country, and joining me, a couple of county champions. We've got Cameron Harper and Nate McKenzie. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. Congratulations on the victories at counties. Cameron, winning never gets old, I'm sure, but it had to feel good to win another county championship, defend your championship as a senior. Tell me about the race, because it started off rather slowly, so give me a little of the strategy on your end there.
My whole strategy was to just, let the other two leading runners have a little bit more of their own kind of race where I could just follow behind, but we all kind of just stuck together for that mile and then waited till I could make my move.
Yeah, Phoebe Meehan running a big race, the North Hagerstown freshman, and Emily Alexander, the junior from South Hagerstown. You were together for a long part of that race. How does it help you going forward that you ran a race there where it was slow for the first and second miles, and then you were able to turn it on and win in the third? Does that help with confidence? Does that help with the fact that you're pointing toward these two big races still to come? Tell me a little about that.
It definitely helps with the confidence, knowing that, I can turn it on a little bit later in the race and, still do well for myself. But, with regions, it's a whole different course. It's a whole different set of people. So different strategies for different races.
And Nate, you have to be pretty happy in your first year as a full-time cross-country runner, as a junior at North Hagerstown, to go out and capture the county championship. Tell me about your race last Thursday and the way that played out.
Yeah, I was very happy with me winning it, but there was a little bit of disappointment due to the fact that me and Brandon weren't able to get 1 and 2. And we had a challenger from Boonesboro, Henry Schmidt, that ran very well and kind of messed up our plan, but it still turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, it was a good day for the North Hagerstown team overall, though. I know fell short of the goal of winning the county team title by 10 points to Boonesboro. You mentioned Brandon Gassaway, but also you get Sage Vipon, Zach Berg, and Ben Gazzola all in the top 16. How does that bode going forward for North Hagerstown with regions and states to come? Do you feel like this is something that can kind of move the team up a little bit as far as those championship meets are concerned?
Yes, I do believe that, we have the capability to have all of us, contend. But we just have to have everybody do what we do at practice when it comes to the races. And me and Brandon, I guess, have a little bit more confidence.
Well, I think your leading by example is pretty good at this point in time. That was your 4th win in a race this season. And Cameron, as far as the experience that you have and the experience that your team has, another county championship, back-to-back Of course, you're the defending region champion, two-time defending state champions. So the bullseye's a little bit on your back, but you have to feel pretty good about that going into those two big championship meets. It's your senior season. And I don't want to get too far ahead because, yes, regions are coming up this Thursday. But as far as states are concerned, last year, second. How much of a motivating factor is that for you as you look ahead?
Second last year has definitely been something that I've thought about this entire year, and it's something that motivates me every day, but not in the sense where it's like I need to win this year because of last year. It's more just last year I felt my race at states wasn't at my full strength. Like I could have done better. Anna Roten had an amazing race that day, and she worked hard for that title, but this year we've got a bunch of runners that are vying for first place, so we're just all going to have to try hard and see who wins.
And something you talked about was different courses and going up against different players along the way. And Nate, that brings me back to you because you've been on very familiar courses here recently. And we were talking a little bit before we went on the air about that Hereford course. And again, jumping ahead and looking towards states, 12th place finish last year. What did you learn from being there last year that will help you going forward this year?
Well, last year I was very surprised with how I finished. It was, I guess you could say, based off of my talents, of running. But this year, it will be a whole lot different because my training is different. I'm committed full time, and I'm hoping to win states.
Yeah, well, hey, you may as well shoot as high as you can. There's no reason not to, and I know you two put in a tremendous amount of work. It's great to see it pay off for you, and it's been fun watching you so far this season, and we look forward to some more big wins here before it's all said and done. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be back right after this. I've got state results from golf, and also take a look at what's happened in soccer so far with the playoff action. That's next on Inside Sports.
Antietam Broadband's Flight Gigabit service is ultra high-speed internet delivered by a direct fiber connection. We are one of the few communities in the country to have it. But what does it mean? It means businesses will want to move here, which means more jobs, better jobs. It means access to world-class infrastructure for healthcare, education, and nonprofits. It means enhanced social and economic well-being. That's why it won the 2017 Leading Edge Award from the Chamber of Commerce. Flight Gigabit from Antietam Broadband, changing how people connect.
Welcome back to the show. If we forgot the incredible suddenness and finality the postseason brings, we received our initial reminder last week when the first fall sport to crown its state champions, golf, delivered that solemn message. Day one claimed the careers of seniors Will Stowey of South Hagerstown and Jordan Rao of Boonesboro, and the seasons of Smithsburg junior Wyatt Roof and Leopard freshman Carson Hall. That left a pair of surviving Smithsburg seniors to battle for 2A, 1A individual medalists, and fight they did. Both Mark Nee and Brett Bale started day two 4 shots off the lead after carding matching 79s on Tuesday. Nee was 2 shots better on Wednesday, finishing with a 156 total that tied him for 6th overall. Bale improved his score from day one, too. In fact, the 2-time Inside Sports Golfer of the Year matched the day's best round. Bale's 74 put him right on the brink, but ultimately left him 1 away from forcing a playoff. Instead, he ended up in the most bittersweet position possible, as runner-up. What's even more frustrating is that while he tied for second this year, which bettered his 4th place finish a year ago, the 151 he shot in 2016 would have made him the champion in 2017. That's how close Bale came to becoming the first boys state title winner from the county in 17 years. It's been since 2006 now that the county has brought home a state championship in girls soccer, and the quest began anew last Thursday. In 3A West, the 3rd-seeded North Hagerstown Hubs steamrolled their way through the Section 2 quarterfinal at the expense of 6th-seeded South Hagerstown. North dominated possession and run of play and put the ball in the net a half dozen times. tying their best offensive output of the season in advancing 6-0. But in Tuesday's section semifinal at second-seeded Thomas Johnson, the script flipped. The Hubs produced no goals as their season ended with a record of 10-5 in a 2-0 setback to the Patriots. Shutout in Frederick County turned out to be the same movie for Williamsport in the Wildcats' Friday night 2A West Section 2 quarter at Middletown. Williamsport's injury-riddled season ended painfully 1-0. Over in 1A West Section 2, after shutting out 6th-seeded Catoctin in last Thursday's quarterfinal, the 3rd-seeded Boonesboro Warriors visited 2nd-seeded Clear Spring Tuesday night in an intra-county semifinal. The match would ultimately become a marathon, but the two teams sprinted to a couple of early goals, with Blazers freshman Keely Knott striking first in the 11th minute to put Clear Spring on top. But it was a short-lived lead, one that lasted all of 4 minutes, when Allie Reideman converted a penalty kick to draw Boonesboro even and foreshadow what was to come, although it would be quite a while because the next 65 minutes of regulation and subsequent 20 minutes of overtime only led to penalty kicks to decide it. And even there was no quick decision. It took 13 rounds before Warrior goalkeeper Faith Garachi recording her 19th save of the contest, finally enabling Boonesboro to celebrate punching its ticket to the section final opposite the number 1 seeded Smithsburg Leopards. The top seeded and defending region champion hadn't played in 3 weeks, so they seemingly were making up for lost time. Smithsburg tallied 5 times in the first 40 minutes alone on its way to an 8-0 bludgeoning of 5th-seeded FSK to set up a section final rematch of a year ago. The Leopards won that one last year, but Boonesboro won the regular season meeting this year with Garachi saving, wait for it, a penalty kick to preserve the 1-0 victory. They'll meet Thursday in Smithsburg. The boys got started last Thursday in the 1A West Section 2 quarterfinals, where PKs boosted Boonesboro into the semis with a 2-1 victory over 6th-seeded Catoctin. However, 5th-seeded Smithsburg wasn't as fortunate. The Leopards' year ended at number 4 FSK 4-0. Top-seeded Clear Spring awaited FSK in a section semi on Tuesday, and the Blazers didn't wait long to assert their dominance. The defending section title holders took barely 3 minutes to grab the lead on Dalton Myers' goal. Then, just over a minute later, it was Jarrett Lozich notching his 27th marker of the season. Followed about 10 minutes later by Connor Michaels' header off Myers' corner kick, and the Blazers were on their way to their 11th shutout victory of the season, 4-0. Next up for Clear Spring will be second-seeded Brunswick, a 2-1 winner over Boonesboro in Tuesday's other section semifinal. Last Friday, 3rd-seeded Williamsport opened its postseason at home against 6th-seeded Seneca Valley in a 3A West Section 2 quarterfinal. When Trevor Canode scored the Wildcats' second goal in the first 9 minutes, it appeared Williamsport was going to walk into the semis. But what started as a comedy for the Cats was about to become serious. There was a seriously spectacular save by Williamsport keeper Billy Wood, a serious injury to Seneca Valley's goalkeeper, which stymied the Wildcats' momentum, a seriously tricky shot Wood initially saved, yet because of a serious backspin, cut the Williamsport lead in half, while some seriously strong net minding by Seneca Valley's backup keeper held the Wildcats at bay. Some serious bad luck in the 69th minute for the Cats tied the game at 2. Then in the 7th minute of overtime, Canode was left asking, "Are you serious?" after this, but that was before he turned Derek Jack's pass into the game winner that set off a serious and delirious Williamsport celebration. Then on Tuesday, in a section semifinal, the Wildcats built the drama again. After spotting second-seeded Damascus an early 1-0 lead, Williamsport tied it in the 48th minute with Canode doing the honors again. And then in the 71st minute, it was who else but Canode with the goal that sends the Cats on to Thursday's section final against two-time defending 2A state champion Middletown. In 3A West, third-seeded North Hagerstown created its own brand of "it's not over till it's over" soccer last Friday in a Section 2 quarter against sixth-seeded South Hagerstown. Joey Jacques put the Hubs ahead in the 14th minute, capitalizing on Reed Dottridge's corner kick. And goalkeeper Ryan Sox helped North maintain that one-goal lead for the next 59 minutes. That was until Lethan Bedregal beat Sox to Dylan Bayer's bouncing touch in the 73rd minute. But just over 9 minutes later, Steven Cermino settled Caleb Dell's throw-in and curled it into the upper left corner of the net to advance his Hubs and eliminate the Rebels 2-1. However, North wound up feeling South's pain Tuesday night at Thomas Johnson, where the Hubs were ousted by the 2 seed 6-1. As the postseason continues, so does our coverage of our county teams and athletes' fates and fortunes. The year's getting smaller, but the prizes are getting bigger. We've got you covered again next week. Thanks for watching this time, and I'll see you then on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers.